Well, I think probably in the community there was overall a concern about the fire prevention and fire equipment that was in service, but in particular, there was a deputation at a council meeting in May of 1924, which I think I'll read to you, which kind of, I think, sums up the concerns probably for most of the community. So a deputation composed of Misters Mills, Arnold, and Dunlop addressed the council with reference to the purchase of a chemical fire truck. Mr. Mills stressed the possibility of damage to the greenhouse industry as being much greater than would be involved by any other industry in case of fire, and the consequent greater necessity of a more effective means of fighting fire than we at present possess. Mr. Arnold stated that there was little or no chance of getting water to his greenhouses, and while he was paying taxes for fire protection, he was not getting it, while a chemical engine, such as was advocated, would give the protection needed. Mr. Dunlop pointed out that the greenhouse industry employed considerable labor and paid out a large amount of wages annually. He also stated his opinion that the importance of this industry to the village deserved the consideration of the council in the matter under discussion. The council then gave the deputation the assurance that every consideration would be given to the question. The truck was actually purchased, or the approval for the truck purchase was in July of 1925 at a cost of $3,297.25. $1,622 of that was to the Durant Motor Limited, which was for the purchase of the chassis for the truck. So back then you would buy the chassis, and then you would contract a company to build the actual apparatus on top of the chassis. And that was done by Lauren Tractor, who had a plant in Ingersoll, Ontario, and who had built fire trucks for other communities. So for an overall cost of $32,97.25, and then of course some of that cost would be defrayed by fighting fires outside of the community at $50 per hour. In terms of its funding, so I guess to help to fund it, there was mention in the minutes of the council meeting of July 20th, 1925, that the clerk had stated that he had received a copy of a motion made by the fire brigade in which the members agreed to apply their annual grant on the cost of the apparatus in excess of the amount recently voted on. Also, a subscription list signed by 4 property owners to the same effect, with the proviso in each case that the monies in so advanced should be repaid as and when sufficient money was obtained from attendance and service at fires outside of the village. And that was a motion that was moved by Councillor Green and seconded by Councillor Lunow, and it was carried. Yeah, it's really interesting because when you look at the newspaper of the day and you look at the council minutes of the day, that there's really no mention of the fire truck after it was acquired, which I find kind of surprising because, you know, it's such an important piece of the community and, you know, the overall protection of the community. And the only reference that I saw to it was that the fire chief had reported to council that the equipment was proving to be satisfactory, which is an interesting response to like getting this sort of major piece of equipment. So I think one of the interesting things is that at that same council meeting, which happened in October of 1925, that they moved a motion that any use of the fire truck for fires outside of the community would be charged $50 per hour with a minimum $50 charge. To be honest, I think it was all really interesting. The fact that here at the library we have such a wide collection of items that allow us to do this type of research. So having the village council minutes and having the old newspapers and having great old photographs in our collection. You know, we have photographs like this one showing it probably when it was acquired. This was taken in 1986. For a fire department anniversary. So probably not long after they reacquired it would be my guess. And I think just, you know, I learned a lot about the history of fire trucks because in the 1920s, they were starting to build what they were becoming very popular to build chemical fire trucks. So where you have a chemical reaction is what builds the pressure, which expels the water to fight the fire. And just learning about the Road King and how fire trucks and all trucks were mostly built back then. So you bought a chassis for the truck. So this is sort of an example of the chassis that you bought, and then you would pay a company to build the structure on top of the chassis to give you your fire truck. And I think just looking, and of course for me, I've been here at the library for a number of years now, and I'm like recognizing names from the stories. And I know when I've talked to different firefighters about it, these are all people that they know of, and I think they find it very fascinating. And we can share these kinds of stories, and I think this is a great opportunity to kind of do that and show exactly what history in Richmond Hill means, and having it available, particularly here at the library.